Hello, Matuchima, and watching HornbillTV. What if you rushed to a hospital to save your best friend's life and they turned you away? Not because your blood type was wrong, not because you were sick, but because of who you are. This isn't hypothetical, it's happening right now in India, every single day. Last week, the Supreme Court heard a case that's been dragging on for 5 years. At its heart is a simple question. Should the government have the power to permanently ban entire communities from donating blood? Today, we're breaking down the LGBTQ plus blood donation ban in India, what it says, why the government defends it, why activists are fighting it, and what happens next. Let's get into it. Let's start with the basics. What are we actually talking about? In 2017, the Indian government issued something called the Guidelines on Blood Donor Selection. It's a rule book that tells blood banks who can donate and who cannot. Two specific clauses matter here. Clause 12 labels certain groups as high risk for HIV and other infections. These groups include transgender persons, men who have sex with men, and female sex workers. Clause 51 then permanently defers these groups. That means banned for life. No appeals, no exceptions, forever. Let me be absolutely clear what this means in practice. If you're a gay man in a monogamous relationship for 20 years, faithfully tested every 3 months, HIV negative every single time, you cannot donate blood, ever. If you are a transgender woman who's healthy, employed and wants to contribute to society, you cannot donate blood, ever. A heterosexual person with multiple unprotected partners, they can walk in and donate today. No questions asked about their recent behavior. That's the policy. That's what's being challenged in court. Now, the government isn't banning these groups for no reason. They have arguments. Let's hear them fairly. Argument 1. The numbers the government points to data. According to their statistics, HIV prevalence among men who have sex with men is about 2.7%. Among transgender persons is around 3.1%. In the general adult population, 0.2%. So we're talking about prevalence, rates that are 6 to 13 times higher in these communities. Argument number 2. The window period problem. Here's where it gets technical. When someone gets infected with HIV, there's a gap between infection and when a test can detect it. That's called a window period. Even with advanced tests, that window can be 8 to 11 days. During that time, someone could test negative but still pass on the virus through their blood. The government's logic: if prevalence is higher in these communities, the chance of a window period donation slipping through is also higher. Argument 3. Protecting the poor. This was the argument that hit hardest in court last week. The Chief Justice of India said this: millions of poor people depend on free blood from government hospitals. They cannot afford private facilities. They rely on this blood supply. His question was blunt. Even if there is a 1% chance of infection, why should poor patients be exposed to that risk? The government argues that the right of a recipient to receive safe blood outweighs any individual's right to donate. And here's the kicker. Last August, an expert committee reviewed this policy again, and they recommended keeping the ban in place. Now let's hear the other side. The petitioners who have been fighting this since 2021 include transgender activist Santa Kurai from Manipur, author Sharif Rangnekar, and activist Harish Iyer. Their arguments are equally compelling. Argument 1. Identity versus behavior. This is the core of this case. Their case. Senior advocate Jaina Kutari told the court, the risky behavior is the unprotected sexual act, not my identity. Think about that. A gay man who has been celibate for 5 years is banned. A heterosexual person who had unprotected sex last week with a stranger, they can donate today. The policy punishes who you are, not what you do. That's the fundamental problem. Argument 2. We test all blood anyway. Here's something many people don't know. Every single unit of blood donated in India is tested for HIV. for hepatitis B and C for syphilis, for malaria. Modern blood banks use something called NAT testing, nucleic acid testing. It detects the virus's genetic material directly. It can catch infections within 8 to 11 days. So if we are testing all blood anyway, why are we preemptively banning entire communities? Argument 3. This is unconstitutional. The petitioners point to 3 constitutional provisions. Article 14 guarantees equality before the law, but this policy creates arbitrary classifications. It treats LGBTQ plus people differently without a rational connection to blood safety. Article 15 prohibits discrimination based on sex. In 2 landmark judgments, the NALSA case in 2014 and the Navdesh Johar case in 2018, the Supreme Court held that sex includes gender identity and sexual orientation. So discriminating against LGBTQ plus people is constitutionally forbidden. Article 21 guarantees the right to life and dignity. Being told your blood is unfit isn't just about donation. It's about being labeled as inherently dirty, as a threat to society. As Santa Kurai put it, by barring us from donating, the state brands us as dirty. We want to save lives too, but our blood is considered tainted before it is even tested. The global context, how India compares. Let's zoom out for a moment. How does India's policy compare to the rest of the world? Countries with permanent identity-based bans like India. That list is shrinking fast. The United Kingdom moved to behavior-based screening in 2021. Now all donors answer the same questions about recent sexual activity. Canada implemented gender-neutral screening in 2022. Australia announced major reforms in June 2025. Moving toward individual risk assessment, the United States lifted its long-standing restrictions in 2023. They now use a universal questionnaire for all donors based on behavior, not identity. Brazil's Supreme Court struck down time-based deferrals in 2020, ruling they offended human dignity. Spain, Italy, Poland, Russia, they have no specific deferrals for MSM at all. The global trend is unmistakable. The international consensus, as stated in a 2023 symposium of 7 high-income countries, is that gender-neutral donor selection has been largely positive and reassuring for safety. India's policy is increasingly out of step. Now the irony, blood shortage. Here's the part that does not get talked about enough. India faces a chronic blood shortage. The country needs about 14.6 million units of blood every year. Supply falls short by 1 to 2 million units. That shortfall means delayed surgeries, complicated childbirths, compromised cancer treatment, people dying who did not have to die. During dengue outbreaks, the shortage becomes critical. During malaria season, blood banks are stretched to breaking point. And in the middle of this crisis, we are turning away willing, healthy donors. Not because their blood is unsafe, all blood is tested anyway, but because of a label. The petitioners make a simple point. In a country facing blood shortages, excluding donors is counterproductive and dangerous. Every excluded donor is a missed opportunity to save a life. So where does this leave the debate? At its core, the case before the Supreme Court of India raises a difficult balance between 2 competing concerns: ensuring the safest possible blood supply for patients and addressing claims of discrimination raised by members of the LGBTQ plus community. The government maintains that the current guidelines are necessary to minimize risk in blood transfusions, particularly for patients who rely on public health care. Petitioners, on the other hand, argue that advances in testing and a shift toward behavior-based screening could protect safety without excluding entire communities. The court has not yet delivered its final verdict. When it does, the decision could shape not only India's blood donation policies, but also the broader conversation around equality, public health, and scientific evidence in policy making. For now, the question remains unresolved: how should a country balance medical caution with constitutional rights? The answer may soon come from the court. That's all we have for now. Keep watching Hornbill TV.